Good afternoon, everyone. Before I officially call the case, I just want to check in with my court reporter. Harriet, ready to go?
Right.
All right. Now calling proceeding number 24M-0274R. This proceeding concerns developing template construction and maintenance agreements and preliminary engineering agreements for use in public crossing projects over which the Commission has jurisdiction, as required by Rule 7214 of the Commission's rules regulating railroads, rail fixed guideways, transportation by rail, and rail crossings, found at 4 Code of Colorado Regulations 723-7. This hearing was scheduled by decision number R25-0346-I, issued on May 14th, 2025. It is now July 8th, 2025 at approximately 3:00 p.m. My name is Melody Mirbaba, and I am the administrative law judge who is assigned to hear this case. I do want to let everybody know that consistent with commission practice, we've got a court reporter taking down everything that's being said. We are also recording both the video and audio of this hearing and are webcasting live the video and audio of this hearing, and we will continue to do so if we take any breaks. Just to make sure that we have a clear record, I'm going to ask everybody to keep your microphones muted until it is your turn to speak. And when it is your turn to speak, please turn on your cameras for us. I want to start off by finding out who we have here with us today. I'm going to call on you by the screen name that you've used to identify yourself. I'd like you to also, if you have anybody else that's with you, please go ahead and introduce them so that I do not have to call on them separately. So let's get started with that. Okay, I want to start by calling on the person identified on the screen as Misty Peterson. If you could unmute your microphone, turn on your camera, tell us if you are here on behalf of anyone else, including any company, and please state and spell your name.
Good afternoon. I'm Giselle Jefferson, Gisele Jefferson, Washington County Board of County Commissioners Chairman. With me is Scott Ramey, Scott Ramey, Ramey, County Commissioner District 3. Also with me is Brandy Ward, Brandy, Ward, Ward, County Commissioner District 2. And with us is Misty Peterson, Misty Peterson, Peterson, Washington County Administrator.
Thank you. I'm writing all that down, so I might have you repeat something, so just bear with me.
Sure.
Your name again? Sorry, the first lady who's speaking. I thought it says Misty Peterson, so that's why I'm checking.
Yeah, ma'am, why don't you go ahead and repeat your name so our court reporter makes sure she gets it.
Yes. Misty Peterson is our county administrator, and we're using her Zoom login.
I know, but what's your name?
My name is Giselle Jefferson. Giselle, G-I-S.
That's all I needed.
E-L-E. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna call on the person identified on the screen as David C. LaPlante. I'm sorry if I mispronounce anybody's name. Please correct me. I promise to do better if I learn how to say the name correctly. David LaPlante. You'll need to unmute yourself and turn on your microphone. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next person. I'm going to call on Virginia Harmon.
Good afternoon. I'm Virginia Harmon. I am the CEO of Mountain Parks Electric in Granby, Colorado.
Thank you so much. All right, let me call on the person identified as Nathan Cash.
Hello, I'm Nathan Cash. I'm here representing as an attorney. Washington County, which it seems like Misty Peterson and that group is here that you've already called on. I'm with the county, and as well as that, I'm representing the city of Yuma, which Karma Wells is also here. Her name shows up as K. Wells, but it's Karma Wells, Carma, and she's having some technical difficulties, so she may not be able to hear or respond, but she is in this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let me call on Caitlin Warner.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Great timing in terms of technical difficulty. I'm on my phone trying to get in on my laptop, but Caitlin Warner here on behalf of BNSF. Also present is Rayford Nichols, and I can't see on my phone, but I know that James Donovan also intended on appearing. Thank you.
Can you give me the spelling of the second name that you just told us?
Yes, it's Rayford, Rafer, and Nichols, Nichols.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Yes, I see. I didn't see your name on the screen before, but I do see you're there now. Rayford Nichols. Okay. All right, let's see. Let's go with Amber Stoffels.
Good afternoon, Amber Stoffels with Union Pacific, AMBER, Stoffels, Stoffels. Yeah, and I'm the regional manager of public projects with Union Pacific. We have others on as well.
Would you mind telling me who we've got? Because I know you guys tend to have a good number of folks, and it might make things quicker if I can get a listing now rather than calling on everybody.
Yep, I will defer to Sean Lanka to speak on behalf of the rest of the folks on. So that's all who I see right now.
Okay, thank you. Sean Lanka.
Oops. Trying to get my video. There we go. It's Sean Lanka, actually.
Thank you.
And, I'm manager of legal support services at Union Pacific. And I believe we also have Richard Kerner, one of our consultants. I think that is it for right now for Union Pacific. Josephine Jordan, our senior counsel, may be joining shortly.
Yes, and I was just looking over notes from the last time we met. I see that David LaPlante was also with Union Pacific, and I had tried to call on him earlier, and I don't see him on the screen anymore.
He may, yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah, I saw him on. Is he still? Let me see. He may have had trouble getting his audio to work, but it doesn't look like he's on now. I can message to see if he was having technical difficulties and if he'll be rejoining us.
That's fine. You don't need to go to that effort. I just wanted to know because I had his name on the screen earlier, so that's all.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Call on Heather Jarvis.
Hello, Your Honor. Heather Jarvis, representing the city of Fort Collins.
Thank you. Okay, I am going to attempt to say this name and hopefully not butcher it. Nick Limberopoulos?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Nick Limberopoulos, in-house Associate General Counsel for RTD. It's just me this afternoon.
Thank you. And thank you for helping me out with your name. Okay, so I think I might have covered all the names that I'm seeing on the screen, but I want to invite anybody who I have missed or who has not otherwise been introduced to go ahead. I see Mr. Dittman, you've unmuted. So why don't I'll go ahead and call on you.
Hello?
Yes.
Well, I can't hear you any longer, but Brandon Dittman on behalf of the CCUA, Fort Collins, Yuma County, Arvada, and the town of Hayden. And I'll try to figure out why my audio suddenly cut out. Thank you.
Can everybody else hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't a
Yes, we
problem.
can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, have I missed anybody else? Oh, I think I see another name on here. I'll call on Michael Ogborn. I don't know if you heard the first part of this, but I'm just trying to get a sense of who's here. If you could just tell us who you are, spell your name, and let us know if you're appearing on behalf of anyone.
Arvada, and the town of Hayden. And I'll try to figure out why my audio suddenly cut out. Thank you.
Can everybody else hear me?
I can.
Okay, I think there is a delay on your end.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like he's got his.
Okay, have I missed anybody else?
Audio there.
Oh, I think I see another name on here. I'll call on Michael Ogborn. I don't know. Okay, Mr. Ogborn, I muted you because for some reason we're getting feedback. Or if you're connected more than one way to our hearing, that is what tends to happen. I'm gonna try to unmute you right now and see if that has resolved, and just let us know who you're here for.
The American Shortline and Regional Railroad Association. Could you hear me?
Yep, I got it.
Great,
Making
thank
a
you.
note. American Shortline Rail Association. Did I get that right?
Railroad Association.
Railroad Association. Okay. Thank you. Okay, is there anybody that has not been introduced yet? All right, let me just check in with Mr. Dittman. Do you have your audio up and running?
I can hear you guys now. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, excellent. Do I need to re-enter my appearance or was previously sufficient?
I certainly made note of it. Harriet, you did hear Mr. Dittman's
Yes, I
earlier.
did.
Okay, all right, so we are good to go. If there's anybody else who has not been introduced, go ahead and unmute yourself, turn on your camera, and introduce yourself.
Your Honor, David C. LaPlante, Union Pacific. I apologize for my technical difficulties. Thank you.
It's quite all right. Thank you.
Your Honor, did Nathan T. Cash, someone identified on the screen, was this person a part of some group?
Yes, I believe Nathan Cash is a counsel for Washington County in the city of Yuma. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
My apologies. So sorry. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. And then we had one other person who was on the screen as Land 294's iPhone.
Your Honor, that's also David C. LaPlante, Again,
Okay.
apologize for my technical difficulties.
No problem. I'm just glad you're able to join us. Okay, did we get everybody? Is there anybody else that needs to introduce themselves? Okay. Thank you for all bearing with me on that. It can be very helpful for me to see when I look back at all these hearings who we've had participate in our hearings. Okay, so the purpose of this hearing is to hear from the participants on the results of their discussions about potential consensus template agreements for the commission to approve for use pursuant to Rule 7214 of the commission's rules regulating railroads, rail fixed guideways, transportation by rail, and rail crossings. When we last met, which was back in May, participants were very close to finalizing a template construction and maintenance agreements for at-grade crossing projects. I understand that BNSF was planning to work with the near final template agreement that originated with Union Pacific, and that BNSF was going to make, I believe, minor changes just to address BNSF specific issues, and that the participants were going to meet on May 28th, where those final details could be confirmed and the template agreement that could be used would be finalized. Also, during that meeting, the participants were going to discuss and hopefully reach a consensus on the next type of template agreement that we're going to be tackling in this case. So that's what I have as what we're going to be doing here today. What I would like to see if there's somebody who would like to speak up and provide an update for me on what's happened over the last couple of months since we last met.
And Your Honor, Caitlin Warner here on behalf of BNSF. Happy to do so. The parties have met both on May 28th, as you noted, and also June 30th to try to finalize best laid plans. We're still working out some of the final issues, so we haven't had a chance to incorporate it into BNSF's finally because the parties are still working out a few provisions. I know BNSF was going to provide some force majeure language we have. I think UPs probably provide theirs, and I think we may be waiting on some of the agencies to provide their proposed language. It is my recollection.
Okay.
And as it relates to the next agreement, I believe, and someone raise their hand if they're incorrect, we all came to a consensus that was going to be grade separated.
I would agree.
Okay, thank you. Well, that makes sense for that to be the next one on the list. So, Ms. Warner, as I understand it, just in terms of the BNSF template, there are still some details that you all are working on. I am wondering though, because I understood that the Union Pacific agreement was pretty much done the last time we were all together. So I'm just hoping somebody from Union Pacific or somebody in this group can confirm that that's good to go. Sean Locke.
Yeah, I'll let her speak. I think she can provide greater clarity where the parties are.
Okay, thank you.
Audio back on? Yeah, I just sent out, as Ms. Warner just explained, we met on the 30th of June, of June. And I incorporated some of the changes, with revisions the stakeholders had discussed, and I just got those sent out this morning. So I think they're probably between revisions that were made that, I kept in red line for people to review and say, yep, that looks like what we agreed on. I think there are 3 revisions made, pursuant to the June 30th meeting. And there are a few other spaces where I've got a comment that one of the other stakeholders was going to propose revisions, but I mean, there's nothing there that I think that at this point it would be contentious or anything that would take very long to, to come to agreement on. If anybody, if thinks I mischaracterize that or, wants to add any explanation, please feel free.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, for clarity, so apologize if I didn't explain it up front. We are still finalizing the UP template. We, as in everyone, those final, and so that has not then been transferred to the BNSF because the parties are still have a few outstanding comments and revisions.
Okay. Well, it does sound like the progress on these, and these are probably going to be the most commonly used ones. We're really close on those, and so that it does make sense to go ahead and start digging in on the next one, the grade separated agreement. What about preliminary engineering agreements? Have the parties even, or the participants looked at any of those yet? I mean, I'm just kind of curious. I'm interested in, I haven't seen any of these yet, so I don't know what it looks like and whether you all are essentially trying to combine it all into one document, because typically in the past it was a construction and maintenance agreement. That was one thing. And then a preliminary engineering agreement was another. The preliminary engineering agreement, I don't know. Okay. There's some feedback from somebody. So mute, please. Thank you. Once I see these agreements, I'll have a better sense of it, but are the preliminary engineering agreements going to be essentially the same agreement for any kind of grade separated crossing?
Your Honor, this is David C. LaPlante. The preliminary engineering agreement is separate from both the at grade and the grade separated agreements, if that was the question.
Sure, but what I'm wondering is whether we're going to need just one preliminary engineering agreement that could be used for any kind of public crossing project.
I'll defer to the UP and BNSF engineering teams on that to clarify that for Your Honor.
Well, anybody who has thought about this, would you go ahead and unmute and let me know? And if you haven't, then I'll just make a note that this is something we'll want to talk about the next time we get together, because frankly, if it's just going to be one agreement that can be used for all the types of public crossings, then I would want that to also kind of make the top of the list of things that we can get accomplished between, as soon as possible, frankly. Getting through each one of these other kinds of crossings I can understand the need to do that for construction and maintenance agreements for the different kinds of construction projects, but a preliminary engineering agreement, I would hope, could be static for any kind of crossing.
Your Honor, this is David LaPlante again. It may be good to table that. We weren't prepared to discuss that today. I can talk to our UP engineering team, so can the BN, and we can discuss that during the next status conference, Your Honor.
Okay, that sounds good. That might be something that I actually want you all to talk amongst yourselves the next time you meet. So that brings up my next question. Do you guys have any other meetings planned? And if so, when?
Your Honor, I don't recall at this time that we do. I believe the consensus, and a lot of people had to drop off at the end of our last meeting on June 30th, but was, do we get an extension or do we get in front of Your Honor? And I think we decided, we had this set, you would want to kind of know where the parties are. And so I think, I don't think we had kind of planned ahead so much as to after this kind of waiting to get direction from Your Honor. And to the extent it's helpful, and I can understand why it may not have been reviewed because it may not make sense right now, but I believe, or I know at least BNSF, and I believe UP and CDOT filed template agreements at the very beginning of this proceeding. So I believe those are all available to the parties or anyone who wants to review, just to know what's out there in the world of agreements.
Thank you for reminding me of that. We did see a lot of those come in, and I might just take a look to get a better sense of what these tend to look like. As you probably all know, that the commission typically doesn't get involved into that level of detail in any of these rail cases. So, and hopefully once we get these done, that'll be it. And you guys can just go, and the commission doesn't need to be involved in all of this sort of a thing in the future. I would certainly prefer that. I think save everybody a lot of time and resources. So I am wondering if we can, as we sit here right now, identify, I don't know how realistic it is, but can we identify a deadline at least by which you all will have at least one more meeting? I don't necessarily need to say you need to meet on X date, because I'm sure you're going to need to talk to other people, and there are probably people who aren't here today that may want to participate. But our next hearing is September 8th. I'm going to just kind of look at a calendar right here. A sense of what makes sense. You guys last met June 30th. Well, it would seem that it would probably be a good idea to at least have very latest another meeting by about mid-August. You know, I'm going to go ahead and say August 8th. That's a full month. That way, if there's a need for shorter follow-up meetings, you'll have time to do that before we come in the next time on September 8th. Okay, as of right now, since we set 2 hearings last time, I'm not going to set another one, but when we meet again in September, I'll most likely set additional hearings. And as with every other time that we've done this, I typically will set this deadline like I just did, August 8th, for you guys to meet again. And the requirement is that everybody who has filed a notice to participate has to be included, invited at least to that meeting. It's not mandatory that everybody participate, but it does help to have their involvement if people do choose to do so. I will issue a written decision just outlining all of this. This is pretty basic. It's going to be a pretty short decision, but it probably won't go out until next week. Ms. Jarvis, I see you use the raise hand feature. Is there something you'd like to share?
Yes, Your Honor. One thing that we wondered, as Caitlin described, we thought it best to keep today rather than try to, continue today, just to check in on progress, but also because in the recent weeks, there have been several more appearances by many utilities. And we didn't know if your guidance, well, we figured that the definite next document to pursue is this grade separated. But then we didn't know what your guidance would be since a bunch of utilities have now joined. You've said the engineering is your next priority. And then I guess fourth, is that what you would be anticipating for the utility crossing agreements? Or we just didn't know if you would have additional guidance given that a bunch more folks had entered their appearance.
Sure. So the utility crossings, as I understand it, those are actually, we just don't see those terribly often in front of the commission. So my understanding is that it's not a very common type of public crossing project that we see. And therefore I have not really put utility crossings on the top of the list, but the utilities may be affected. And so therefore I wanted to make sure they were aware this is happening. And when the time comes for them to definitely participate, in terms of overall priorities on the various types of agreements we need to sort out, Right now, I only raise preliminary engineering agreements because I think those have to be done for every kind of crossing. And
Okay.
it might be like low-hanging fruit that we might be able to get that done and it can be used moving forward. This is a very odd case procedurally. Ultimately, when you all have a consensus, those agreements are going to have to be filed with me or with this in this proceeding. I'm going to review them and I'm going to figure out procedurally how to manage getting, approving those and having those then put on the website so they can be used right away. I don't want a delay. This is going to take us a long time. I think we've all seen that. So as they're done, I'm really hoping I can get them approved on the website. But again, this is a very odd case procedurally, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to get that to work. So, for the most part, other than preliminary engineering agreements, I want to defer to all of you on the order in which we should continue to tackle the various agreements that we need to get through. I think you all have more on the ground knowledge about what's going to be most helpful to tackle after the next one, which we said was going to be the grade separated crossings. So, but thank you for raising that. I'm going to call on Nathan Cash next. And of course, after that, I will absolutely see if anybody else has anything else we ought to talk about or address. So, Mr. Cash, you can go ahead and let us know. Go ahead and unmute and let us know what you want to say.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to note that, as I said, I represent both the city of Yuma and the county of Washington. We entered appearance for both clients on May 23rd. To the best of my knowledge, we didn't receive an invite to either the May 28th meeting or the June 30th meeting, which that's okay. I just want to make sure that going forward, if there's any other information we need to provide the court or any of the parties here today, that we can do so we are invited to future meetings.
Yeah, and I know that it's certainly the burden has certainly been put on a lot of the participants in this case, and I don't know exactly who has been leading the charge on the scheduling. I know Mr. Dittman has been pretty active, at least during our hearings, and summarizing everything that's happened, as have Counsel for Union Pacific and BNSF. So I think what I will just suggest is that if you didn't get invited, to definitely follow up with either any of those three, either of the two big railroads, Union Pacific, BNSF, and then also Mr. Dittman, who represents numerous parties in the case and has, I think, done a lot of the coordination. At least that's just my perception based on what's been expressed to me during our hearings. And I also want to make sure everybody who wants to participate, if you have filed a notice of intent to participate, you have to make sure that you provide the email address. Otherwise, we can't even send you the Zoom information to join our hearing. So make sure that you did do that. And if you have any issues and you aren't receiving Zoom invites, reach out to, we have somebody who does technical assistance. Her name is Allison Torvik. And I'm sorry, I don't have her number memorized off the top of my head, but the main line is 303-894-2000, and you can ask for her and she can help sort out any issues. Sometimes there just might have been some sort of either human error or technical error in e-filings to explain why somebody might not have received a Zoom email. We do pull that information from e-filing, so it has to be correct in your notice of your intent to participate. Okay, so Ms. Warner?
Yeah, and I think what I may be doing is duplicative of what Sean may have to say. And it sounds like it's an issue kind of not within your realm, is that I can say personally, did not receive a Zoom invite for this one. Other proceedings, I know that's well outside your purview, but have continued to have some problems getting invites to matters in which I am entered, and I do believe my email address. Again, it doesn't sound like this is something you can solve, especially today, but I just did want to raise that concern.
Yeah, Ms. Warner, I was made aware of you somehow not getting the Zoom, and I don't know. I have no idea why that happened. It is outside of what I do, but it's important to me that everybody does get to participate. And so I am trying to follow up behind the scenes to make sure we're not having issues that are being caused by human error versus technical error. And and certainly you might check in again with Allison to make sure that we're not going to have this problem again.
And I think how it got probably raised to you was I had my legal assistant call to try to see what we could do to, so I think that's probably how it got pushed up.
Yeah. You know, either way, one of the other ideas I had is that we have in the past had a link on our calendar that people could access and then register for a hearing. And I'm going to mull it over, but I might go that route for the next hearing. It's already been set. So, and then a decision that I issue, I might modify it. And that would make it so that anybody who registers will be able to get that link. And that would be a separate process, though, from how we would normally do things, where all you had to do was file your notice of intent to participate, and we pull the emails out of e-filing and send it that way. It's actually a little bit more work for all of you, which is why I try to do it this way. It's supposed to be easier. So I'll give that a little bit of thought. And if I do decide to change how we're doing things, it'll be in the order that I issue. Ms. Lenka, did you have anything more to add to that?
Yes, actually, I had a question, and this might be an Allison Torvik question, but I thought it was worth asking. Now, do you know if there is like a service list? So when new parties, appear, when, as they have done, as Heather pointed out, we've had a number of new parties appear in the last month or two. Is there a service list that is updated? I haven't seen that. I thought, well, maybe I've missed it somewhere. That would be very helpful for I think, well, anybody who's coordinating meetings, things like that, sending out those invitations. And to your point about having an email address for people, but rather than have to go and check the docket, regularly to see if anybody new has appeared and then add them. Do you know if there's a service list? Does anyone know?
I don't think there's not really a straightforward answer to that. I'll explain to you what I understand. So in e-filings, anything that goes out, it's anybody who has been registered in e-filings will get served through e-filings. Anybody who has filed a notice to participate in our case who is not registered with e-filings will also automatically get served, but typically that's going to be either via US mail or email if we happen to have it. That certificate of service is generated for each decision that gets issued. And so if you're within e-filings and you want to see that, you go to the decision itself. I would recommend the last decision. You could even wait for my decision to come out and see what's on there. And you can hit print certificate when you're in there looking at the order. And it'll generate the list of everybody that was basically served through e-filings and or by US mail. Now, we have had some special situations where we've been serving just directly via email. And so there have been numerous supplemental certificates of service that outline email addresses, because the one that's generated through e-filings won't list people's email addresses, though they are sent via e-filings to the email addresses that we have in the case for the individual participant. So if you go in and you look, there's going to be numerous service lists. However, right now, that last round with all these supplemental certificates of service, a lot of that was in an abundance of caution to ensure that everybody that should be provided notice of this case is provided notice and can participate. So a lot of the people that might be appearing on those supplemental certificates aren't necessarily participating in our case right now, and you may not need to serve them. Once I've issued my decision this next round, it will be going to everybody who has filed a notice to participate in our case. And you'll see, if you pull that certificate from there, you should be able to see a full and complete list of all who's participating in our case, and it'll be in one place. Again, though, it won't necessarily give you email addresses for everybody. I am going to just mention to Allison Torvik this request, and if there is, one document that's a service list, I'm sure she'd be willing to share it. And you know what I do now? Somebody sent me her phone number. I have her direct line. It's 303-894-2885. And I'm sorry I can't really do much better than that. It's been a very, say, unique case in terms of service. We've had some issues, and I've tried my best to sort through it all and make sure that we get as much participation as possible. As you all probably recall, in the last decision that I issued, I noted that we didn't really have any of the utilities. We didn't really have any of the short line railroads that had joined us. I was very pleased to see that a lot more notices have been filed, and we've got a lot more participants. And many of those participants may not be interested in participating in a lot of the different negotiations because they don't all affect them. For example, the utilities, they might only want to be a part of the utility construction and maintenance agreement. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. No, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody else would like to raise? Is there anything else we need to address? And I'll let you all think about that. I'm just going to do a final review of what we've talked about here today. And that is, let's see, still finalizing the construction and maintenance agreements for BNSF and UP, very close to getting that done. The next one that the participants are going to work on will be the grade separated agreement, construction and maintenance agreements. I'm going to set a deadline of August 8th by which participants will have to meet at least once. I encourage you all to meet as many times as needed, but at least once. And I'll just repeat that we already have a hearing set for September 8th at 10 a.m. And I am going to consider whether I'm going to set that up to be one that everybody can just click on the calendar, register, and then get the link. I may end up doing that. If I do, it'll be in the decision that goes out. All right, did I capture everything? Did I get anything wrong? And is there anything else that we should talk about before we adjourn our hearing? I think the only other thing I just want to put on the record is that the construction and maintenance agreements that I was just referring to for Union Pacific and BNSF that are close to being finalized are the highway rail at grade crossing agreements. At least that's what my notes indicate. Okay, great. And I'll just say also for the record, although, there's going to be one that, BNSF wanted to have that's more specific to their own unique issues, and perhaps Union Pacific's might be a little bit specific to their own unique issues. What I am hoping for is that we can put these templates out and other railroads will still be able to use them. I want to be able to edit out, they can get rid of things that aren't specific to them, like references to railroads specifically. So my hope is that these are going to be templates that can be used, by other railroads as well. Okay, well, with that, I want to thank you all for participating and for your patience. We clearly still have a long road ahead, but I am pleased to see the progress that we have. I'll just remind everybody that these templates, we were supposed to start using them on November 22nd last year. Obviously, that did not happen. I'm going to assume that everybody who has to is seeking whatever waivers you need to on any ongoing cases that are currently before the commission. That's not something that I can deal with, though. Okay, so thank you all, and with that, our hearing will be adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.